Hi everyone, and welcome to my channel where I talk about movies. Today I'm going to finish up a little short two-part series focusing on a recent Fun City edition double feature which came out I think just last week. Yesterday I talked about Neige. Today I'm going to talk about the second film, The Bitch, with Isabelle Huppert, and it's a this is the slipcase, very well appointed slipcase, and Fun City has provided reversible art for the cover of the physical release. This is Neige on one side and Garce on the other side. I'm going to call this movie Garce. I don't like. I'm much more comfortable calling it Garce. The French word that literally translates to the bitch. But Sam Deegan, I just finished listening to Sam Deegan's commentary, and she's always referring it to Garce, and I'm a bit more comfortable saying that French word than I am the English word. So this is from 1984. It's directed by Christina Pascal, and she had been and continued to be through her directing career an actress, a good friend of Isabelle Huppert, the star of Garce, and this is her second film of six films that she directed. The only one that I've ever seen or ever even heard of. Now, Neige was a crime movie, but it was, for the most part, it was sort of like a depiction of a community in Pigalle section of Paris, in which it seemed like the crime elements sort of were overlaid onto the film in rather predictable ways. Garce, on the other hand, this is indeed a thriller. This is an erotic thriller. So it's much different than Neige, because it is one of those kind of thrillers that goes back to the film noir era, because it's loaded with twists and turns. It's got crime. It's a crime thriller, as well as an erotic thriller. We have a femme fatale here, and boy, do we have a femme fatale here. But it is a movie whose narrative conforms to its own logic. It has an internal logic. It's a little bit fanciful. It's a little bit convoluted. You might wonder, why are these people doing these things? But it's always entertaining. This is a really absorbing movie. And it centers around, in the first 10-15 minutes of the film, a policeman gets convicted of raping a 17-year-old girl. And he is we quickly move in time, where we see him getting out of prison, where he has served a 6-year prison sentence. And then his life somehow gets reconnected with the victim of this rape in ways that he has a lot of difficulty figuring out why. It's a beautifully shot film. We're in Paris again, as with Neige, shot by Raoul Coutard, one of the great cinematographers, with Jean-Luc Godard on many of his films, and many other French films from the New Wave. He's very much associated with the New Wave. Several screenwriters are here. Now, I thought when I was watching this movie and all the twists and turns, this had to be based on a novel, because screenwriters generally don't come up with this kind of plot that's very similar to an American Pulp Fiction plot, say from Cornell Woolrich or many of the other Pulp Fiction writers whose novels and short stories inspired film noir movies. But it's not based on that, on any novel. And we have to say this, as I said earlier, this is an erotic thriller. There's two very intense sex scenes. And what's unusual about these sex scenes, there's quite a few things that are unusual about them, but they're sex with clothes on. Now, when I watched it the second time, there is some inadvertent nudity as far as Isabelle Huppert goes. But basically, these two sex scenes are simulating sexual intercourse with an intensity that you're going to rarely see. They even stop motion at one point. And it is, I have to admit, because I usually, when they simulate the sexual intercourse, I think it's just ridiculous. But here, it's so different. Not only are they mostly clothed in these scenes, but it has an intensity that the two actors are really playing into. And this is the police officer played by Richard Barry. They certainly, he and Isabelle Huppert definitely have a chemistry going here. And Isabelle Huppert is at the height of her stardom, and she's 30 years old. She's playing teenager early on, and then she plays probably somebody 24, 25. But she could do that because she had that waif-like look to her, that she could play much younger than she actually was, and still can today. She's still active in movies. She's 70 years old now. She was born in 1953. But she always had this charisma, this attraction for the camera. You always wonder what she's thinking. She's great at being reactive to the other characters. She likes to play complicated, complex roles as she's playing here. And she's not afraid to play dark characters. She's played them many times. And, this is also the era where she's collaborating with Claude Chabrol in many of his movies. He is the perfect female character for a Chabrol movie. Now, I want to talk a little bit about Sam Deegan's commentary. She also did a commentary on Nage, and this is because and for a number of reasons, but I wanted to get her reaction to the rape scene because this is what's called today the problematic scene in the film. Where somebody is being raped forcibly, but then it seems that the victim is starting to enjoy it. It becomes more or less consensual. So obviously that is problematic today, but even in 1984, audiences would be disoriented by this. This isn't the way you would normally see rape depicted in a movie. Now, Sam Peckinpah did it in Straw Dogs, where it wasn't even to the extent it is here as far as enjoying the rape, and he was vilified by it for his depiction. But here we have a big, empowered female star in Isabelle Huppert, and we have a female director, which was fairly rare in the 1980s, in Christine Pascal. And in listening to Sam Deegan's commentary, Christine Pascal was attracted to these kinds of behavior that were perhaps outside the norm, even with female characters. So again, Sam Deegan sort of leaves it there. She says, yeah, it's a female director, it's a female actress, but still, is this right? The way this is portrayed, problematic. She also misses what I thought was really, really strange. It was that Sam Deegan misses a crucial element of the plot. Why this interconnectedness, why this cop is getting connected with his victim in the world that she's living in 6 years after he's in prison. She misses the motivation for it, and I thought, and she mentions it early on, and I had to look at the dialogue to make sure that I had it correctly. And she also misses because and I don't mean to be over critical of Sam Deegan's commentaries because she is very well prepared, but she goes far afield as she does in Nage. So she talks more about Catherine Breillat's films, which are also transgressive films from a female director, which is interesting. But she gets far away from the movie, and she doesn't point out what I thought was one of the most interesting aspects of the film, is that the storyline uses one location the location of the original rape. It uses it 2 more times in the film. And it's really the key to understanding, at least somewhat understanding, the characters' feelings, their emotions. So there is a, this has got terrific essays in here. And I didn't mention in my video on Neige, there's 2 essays here on Neige, and only one on Garce, Uncomfortable Viewing by Alexandra Heller-Nicholas, and she is always terrific. And this is Barry and Isabelle Huppert, and she is always terrific in her commentaries, her essays, and this essay is mostly about the rape scene and how it can be interpreted, and she provides another very grim piece of information that Sam Deegan evidently was unaware of, because Richard Barry, this character here who plays the police officer, in 2021 was accused of incest by his daughter when she was a young girl, and so we have that. that really shook me, because there's so much transgressiveness in this movie to begin with. But when she covers the actual rape scene, and she sees this dismissal of movies like this as problematic, or scenes like this as problematic, is a bit of a cop-out, a bit of a weasel kind of attitude towards these kinds of scenes, because it doesn't acknowledge the great variety of human behavior that, that people have certain identities, but are these identities really everything about you, or are you still an individual who has their own sense of their own behavior that's unique to yourself, rather than outside of what is proper behavior, or a proper, in the sense of this film, a proper depiction of a horrific act, and in this sense, the act of rape. And this is really, it gets to the heart of a lot of when we look at older movies, because we now have a certain ideology that this is the way things should be, and we cringe at everything, and sometimes properly so, we cringe at things in older movies, because you can't depict things like that today. Or if you do, you're probably going to be vilified, and especially a man is not going to be able to depict behavior by women that doesn't conform to the way the current fashionable ideology is. It's a complicated thing, and what it really does is it adds some real interest to this film. The absorbing, how are we reacting to these people? Why aren't these people conforming to the behavior that we think people should conform to? And it can be very disturbing when we recognize that people don't always do that. There's anything that human beings can do, any kind of behavior, is going to be interesting and often troubling. Do we want to look away, or do we want to confront what the complexities and the depth of human behavior? So neither of these films, I don't think, were released in the U.S. Garce, according to IMDb, never was. It was on the movie channel. I think it said somewhere in the 1990s. So this is the first release. And overall, this film plus Neige, these are films that are really interesting films. I got to admit, because of my love of Pulp Fiction, Garce probably has more interest to me. It's probably a more absorbing movie, and it's a disturbing movie in many different ways that hopefully I have described. Okay, so thanks a lot for everybody who managed to listen. I do appreciate it. Comments are welcome. Take care.